Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. We thank you for joining us. I'm Christian Roberts of Taking the Stage with Kristian and Quo. I am waiting on my co-host to join me, so we will stand by and wait on her to log on. I hope you all are doing well out there. There's Quo. Hello, everyone. Joining us on this live episode. I hope you have your questions waiting, ready to go. We are certainly grateful to have you here. Hey, Quo.
Hi, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Me, all smiles, all day, all the time.
Look, my mom says she rather she laughs to keep from crying, and I keep that philosophy. But I do enjoy laughing so hard that I start crying because that's a good laugh. That's a belly
That's
laugh.
that's good medicine at all
Yes,
times.
indeed.
Greetings, everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to have this conversation with all of you today. So before we kick it off, we do want to encourage everyone, as you have questions, please make sure you put them in the chat so that we can have the conversation. A lot of today is going to be based on sharing our own experiences, but also sharing the ways in which our lived experiences allow us to continue to build on the beautiful things that have happened and the beautiful things that we know will continue to happen.
Yes,
So
indeed.
I'll pass it over to Christian. I'll be quiet.
Yes, so absolutely. There's been a lot going on. I'm sure all of you out there heard about the snowpocalypse in Texas.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so we are truly grateful to be joining with you today and talking with you today and being in community with you today. I see Angel Blue has joined on here.
I think
My
it's so hard.
angel. Had to do a little Anita. So yeah, we are going to be covering a little ground today and talking about some things that are important to us and things that we believe are important for the history of this nation. Um, so we will wait for a few more folks to join us and look forward to this conversation.
Yes. And as we said, for those who are joining and have joined us, thank you so much for giving us your space, your time, for sharing space and time with us. Please be sure to put in your questions. We do want to make sure that as we are bold and as we are empowered to come together to have conversations, that we're doing the work of dismantling the nonsense that continues to separate us. So be empowered, be emboldened to participate in conversation, to ask questions, and then at least hear what others have to say, as well as to value the things that you also have to say. I've been in a space of healing all week.
Yes. After after last week and other trials in our lives, particularly my colleague here, who is the epitome of grace in handling rough situations. That is nothing but the Lord. I assure you, for both of us. So it's just good to be in this space and good to be somewhere, and to be able to see each other and to see all of you hopping on and talking. We love you too, Angel. It's fantastic. When you go through some things and stuff, it makes you grateful when you come out on the other side of them a little bit. And we're still going through it, but we are, and there's a lot of ways to go. But grateful to be here because last week was rough for our entire state.
Yeah.
So just so everyone is aware, I know we I don't know, Quo and I got emails. We are so thankful for people checking on us and texting us and all that kind of stuff. I know I got emails and texts from folks. Black Women in Opera contacted us. Folks out of Philadelphia, Upper Philadelphia, contacted us. So I'm very grateful for our friends and colleagues in the field who have been checking on us. You all make it, you have no idea how encouraging that could be. So thank you all for checking on us and seeing, like the folks say in the country, seeing about us.
Checking in on us. All right. So for those who are here and for those who will join, we will get this episode kicked off after sharing such gratitude and making sure that we do a check-in with everyone because it's important. And I hand it over to you, Kristian, for our normal
So I'm going to do our
episode.
intro as we normally do. My name is Kristian Robert. I'm here with my fabulous friend and co-host,
Quo Decia Johnson.
and we are back with a live episode of Taking the Stage with Kristian
And Quo. And of course, as we do for each episode, because we are committed to creating spaces of equity, we are committed to creating spaces of truth, we are committed to creating spaces that empower us to connect in the ways that we need to do. I will begin this episode with a land and people acknowledgement. I am taking time right here, right now in this space to acknowledge that we in Dallas are on stolen land. We are on the land of the Caddo, of the Wichita, and of the Comanche sovereign nations. Nations who were here since time immemorial. Nations who cultivated the land. Nations who lived, who created stories, who created beautiful experiences, the full human experience. And nations who faced horrible conditions, who faced genocide, who faced policy that allowed for their forceful removal by any means necessary. Dallas is not alone in this, as the entire nation that we are in now, of the United States of America, is on stolen land. So I take this time to uplift our beautiful American Indian and Native American and First Nation communities and the beautiful voices that are ringing out so true right now. I also take this time to acknowledge that we are on stolen land that was built by stolen labor. We are in Black History Month. We know that people were stolen from their homes and forced into this nation and enslaved. And from that enslavement comes free labor, stolen labor that has not seen reparations. Let's be honest about it. So I take this time as a descendant of those enslaved individuals to uplift all of the beautiful communities, the beautiful stories, the beautiful experiences, the beautiful ways in which the entire world has been shaken by what comes from those descendants and what comes from that strength and the stories of stolen people. And with this, I do this not to place blame because these are all things that we've inherited, but to allow us to be empowered and emboldened by truth, to allow us to connect because we have the honor, the ability, the opportunity, the responsibility to heal the harm and to move forward together so that we can continue to honor all of our beautiful communities in all spaces so that we can continue to create even more beautiful experiences together. And with this, I thank you for joining us for our Land and People Acknowledgement.
And we thank you for joining us live today. We want to thank the Dallas Opera staff, our colleagues for their continued support. I want to give a special thank you, of course, to our brother and friend, David Lomeli.
Hey, David.
Chris TDO Network was his brainchild, is his brainchild, and the opportunity to be here today is largely due to him. So just to get into today's episode, you know, we're in Black History Month, and this month and how it started and what it signifies, what it means to the field, what it means to the world, what it means to the United States in particular. All of these things are topics that always swirled around when this month has come around. So we would like to do a brief history and an overview of the month. But this is going to be that episode where we talk about this.
Yeah.
We have never shied away from topics that seemingly swirl up controversy, and quite frankly, most of the time I don't understand why. But I do understand why. And so we want to have a conversation about this because this is a month that is beautiful and that is a beautiful celebration. And we would like to talk about it within, particularly within context of where we sit in the United States. So I'm going to turn it over to Quo so we can talk about the history of this month.
And you know, the history of this month, I will not provide in great detail because we all have the ability to research, right? That's part of the work that comes with being individually committed to creating spaces where we honor one another. Kind of self-education and self-learning is such an important part of that. But I will give an overview of the history and connect that to why there is a need for this month, why there was a need for this month, why there still is a need for this month, and how we go about honoring individuals and communities going forward. So as we know, and as we've acknowledged, we are on stolen land built by stolen labor. The entire nation benefits from stolen land and stolen labor, whether or not states were slave states, as we call them. People still benefit from it. We have an entire economy that benefits from that stolen labor and that stolen land. Have not paid people what people owe, right? And so in that, in addition to the ways in which society continued, racism continued. This is about race. This is about a social construct that has very real effects. The ways in which our nation continued to separate, to diminish, to dismiss, to dehumanize. It's ridiculous. It's still ridiculous in this way. And so out of this came not only a cry, but a command, a conquering, a ownership of we are more than what you say we are. Everyone is more than what they are told they are. Mm-hmm. And so from this extended a cry for a day. From that extended a week. From that extended a month. And even as we look at February and as we look at this month and the importance of this month, throughout the entire history of Black History Month, there has been resistance in taking time to actually ensure that people are educated about the full history, or get to the point where we're educated about the full history of this nation, or where we are acknowledging the ways in which contributions have been made, not just to this nation, but to the entire world. So that's going to be my quick overview of what is happening and of what has happened, right? And as we move forward, there are often questions of why do we still have Black History Month? Mm-hmm. There are different responses to that. Is there a need to still have Black History Month? We know globally at this point that there is a school in Utah that made Black History Month optional. They got in trouble because they announced it, but how many other schools are making it optional? Right? And anytime you take the deliberate action to decide whether or not you're going to pay attention to the full stories of history, you are doing a disservice to yourself. You're doing a disservice to students. You're doing a disservice to so many individuals. You're doing a disservice to everyone. Black history is history.
Yes.
Black people were here before this nation was formed. So to choose not to pay attention to parts of history because you are uncomfortable or because you feel that this is reverse discrimination, whatever those additional excuses are that are honestly based on ego and fear, because that's where it comes from, it's unnecessary. So as we look at this, we also not want to just look at the ways that Black history allow us to voice and command a space of celebration and of truth, but how it also allows us to then extend that into our art form, and not just for Black people, how we extend that into our art form for everybody, and how we start to honor the truth, the whole truth, the truth of all the beautiful communities and the beautiful peoples who have contributed to who we are as a nation. And as we look at whether or not we think history is optional, we have to be mindful of the fact that we have lost so much because we choose to only focus on certain things. Mm-hmm. So for every single thing that we learn about history, when we're facing on white male, white female as well, stories, you're missing out on so many other stories, because everyone has something that has been contributed and everyone has something to contribute. That's my soapbox. I'm gonna step down real quick.
we could honestly close the show right there, but I mean, really and truly, we could, because the thing that struck me, and one of the reasons why we decided to do an episode specifically talking about this month and its history is because of the educational aspect. For me, it was a school gave somebody the option to opt out of U.S. history, out of world history. So we're going to
What world are
continue
you
to. What
living in?
world are you? What world are you living in? I know that's not good English, but truly, where are you living? Now, don't get me wrong. They have since corrected that mistake, so we don't want to sit here and say, keep, quote unquote bashing a school or whatever. But what I'm saying is, Quo made a really good point. How many other schools did that? How many other educational institutions did that? Chose not to, or gave somebody the option to opt out of. What is so
And
threatening? What is so threatening to you where you don't believe that Black history is history? To me, that speaks to the need for it to still be a month,
yeah,
because the importance of the contributions of Black people in America, Black people across the globe, Black people in the U.S., it still is not, it's still deemed as other. And if that
hmm
happens with Black people, you can rest assured that that's going to happen to every other BIPOC person walking around in this nation and in the world who has to deal with these kinds of problems. This is not unique to the U.S., but I'm mostly focusing on the U.S. because that is where I live, and I will not speak for other nations. But I'm sure that if you ask globally, people who face some of these same kind of issues, within their countries, within their continents, and within their states, provinces, etc., that there's a similar attitude toward this. Now, I also realize that it's controversial that my take can be seen as controversial, but why?
yeah. Which is why conversation is necessary.
Exactly.
Why?
Exactly.
And in what ways do we go about not making compromise? I don't believe you should compromise truth because that's how we got here. But the ways in which we shift so that one, we center truth, two, we center connection, and then three, we center our ability to move forward together. Again, as this month is a month of celebration and all the beautiful things that make us who we are, and I'm saying us like as me as an individual, as Kristian as an individual, as my family, the ways that we can also extend that into our art forms and into our opera houses is so crucial. There are
Yes.
connections here. When you have an education system or an institution, both a system and an institution, that others, the stories, the lived experiences, the full humanity of an entire group, opera is not exempt. We've said it before. That
No.
carries over into how we run our organizations. So we see a lot of organizations, a lot of companies. It's Black History Month, so all of a sudden we can find all these Black people. And that's been happening, right? Since summer. So suddenly we found everybody. It's like we're playing hide and seek or something. And so as we're finding these individuals, I encourage all organizations and all entities to consider why you're uplifting these individuals, why you're uplifting these legends, why you're uplifting these stories. If it is just because that's what you're supposed to do in February, then it's still a disservice to you as an organization, but also to everyone else who engages with you. We have the ability to tell stories. That's what we do in opera. And in this, stories are so much richer and they're so much more well-rounded when we look at the whole person, not
Yes.
as an advertisement. Oh, look at all the things we did with all these people. That extends when we get into Women's Month. That extends when we get into Hispanic Heritage. That is Indigenous Peoples Day. That is LGBTQ. All of this, if we're only using people so that we can prove that we've been doing the right thing or that we can prove that we're inclusive without actually centering those individuals or those communities and honoring those individuals and those communities, then we are doing a disservice in so many ways and we're still missing the mark. So we wanted to discuss that today as well. We know that intent does not outweigh impact. So we
Mm-hmm.
all have good intentions. We'll get out of that binary thinking of something was wrong, I'm a bad person. Let go of that perfectionism. You don't need it. We don't need it. But we do want to be honest about the ways that we can celebrate ourselves, the ways that we can celebrate others, the way that we want to be celebrated. It's a golden rule.
Exactly. And we in this kind of work, particularly in the kind of work that this show was based on, education, truth telling, equity, diversity, inclusion, access, all of those things. When we approach community, I mean, especially engaging with community, you have to have those things when you're engaging with community. We center it on truth telling. We center it on trying to look at the whole picture, and we're not going to get it right every single time. But the thing is that we also don't have to go at it alone. If you don't know what to do, find somebody who does. So in terms of what happens with our institutions or with educational institutions or any institutions, we're going to make mistakes. Institutions are made of people, so we're going to make mistakes. But what do we do to correct those mistakes? What do we do to progress and rectify those mistakes? That is what this is about. And this is not a trend. It is not a marketing campaign. This is real history with real implications for our nation. Okay, with real, race is a social construct. We know that. But it has real implications because of the way it was designed in this nation. And opera houses are not exempt. Symphonies are not exempt. Our universities are not exempt. Our schools are not exempt. So we have to be very careful about the ways in which we present this kind of month, this kind of celebration, and be mindful of the way we're presenting it, because you can have the best of intentions. You can want to uplift someone and celebrate them and do harm. Because what ends up happening is, if you do it as a marketing ploy, if you do it for advertising, if you do it as a trend, and that might not be in your intention at all. Let me be clear on that, because I'm not going to ever knock anybody for wanting to uplift another person or another people or a group or a community. That you will never hear me say that. But what I will say is, you have to be careful in the way that you do that, and you have to have the cultural humility to go and work with people and talk with people and see what they need. And this is no different when you're working within something like this. And I say that, I know we're talking about Black History Month, but that's with every other quote unquote marginalized group. I hate that term because it means I'm on the margins, and that doesn't sit right with me. But that's the term that is around. So that's the reason why I say that. And when you are instilling that in the youth from the time they're born, when their minds are forming, when their worldviews are forming, and you're instilling them with half truths, that is detrimental later on in life when they go to college, when they go to start working at different institutions, when they go to do community work. You're giving them half of the story, or an exaggerated or a rose-tinted glasses version of the story. And we know where that's gotten us, particularly in this nation right now. And so when we go to we are storytellers as theater. That's what we do. And so we have to be mindful of this when we are working in our offices, when we are on our stages, when we are in our pits, when we are in our dressing rooms, we're in our board rooms, rehearsal rooms, practice rooms, wherever we are, when we go to tell stories, whether that's in a press release, that's on our social media, that's on our stages, whatever it is, we have a responsibility to present it in such a way that it uplifts, that the impact is a good impact. And again, this is a learning process. Okay, we are learning it together. So this is not a knock against anyone. I'm just saying there is a responsibility.
And saying that there's a responsibility should not be seen as a knock, right?
Yes.
As we establish spaces of courage and compassion, I also encourage and invite everyone to know that you are valued in spaces, know that you are valued, and that when conversations happen, it is so that we can all be on the same beautiful, wonderful page and experience as much as possible and together. It's not a matter of you are a horrible person. No, right? We spoke about that in our staff this week, in that all of our beautiful intentions do not always align with the impact, because there is education and nuance that is necessary, because so many things have been left out. These are things we inherit. This is not something we created ourselves. These are things that we inherit. But if we don't acknowledge it, then these are things that we perpetuate. So we want to be mindful of that. Hello and welcome to everyone who's joining us. I always want to give a
Yes,
shout out. If you
yes.
have questions, we are talking about Black History Month today. The title is Black History All Day, Every Day. So if you have any questions, anything you'd like to share, let us know. We want to hear from you. And as we look at the importance of this, I would like to talk about shifting our roles within spaces or expanding our roles within different spaces. And I believe Black History Month provides us with a beautiful opportunity to do that. In this month, we are centering our focus, our voices, our considerations on Black history, the history of African American people, or the history of people of African descent and enslaved Africans in the United States of America. That does not mean that other people do not matter. That does not mean that other groups do not matter. It very much means that in this space right now, this is the focus. And so as we move to other spaces, it's important that we know what it means to be in community with others and what it means to move forward, to move back, to take up space, to give space, to make way and then get out of the way in so many different approaches to what we're doing. We, again, are storytellers, very creative in our field. In opera, we put a hole in the wall and we play pretend. That is an oversimplification, but that's what we do. And we do it beautifully as a whole. And so we know what it's like to morph or to move or to shift for spaces. I encourage everyone to also take that approach in the ways that we celebrate everyone at different times or collectively. We had a conversation recently about who gets to measure celebration, who gets to measure support, who gets to measure value, who gets to measure equity. And in this, it is us understanding that, yes, while our intentions can be acknowledged, it's always helpful when you do acknowledge, they should not be the focus of what is happening. So celebration should be measured by those who are celebrated. You don't get to tell people, I celebrated you, you need to get over it. Support should be measured by people who are being supported. Equity should be measured by those who are receiving equitable circumstances and equitable results. That will allow us as individuals, as groups, and as organizations to center the voices of those who need to do the measuring and allow that to guide the ways in which that will allow us to continue to do the work that's necessary for us to break down these systems. That's my other.
I know. But and in that, I think about that because, one of the things that I in a talk I gave last week, I said, this is a commitment. This is a lifelong commitment. It is a labor of longevity. Education and community engagement work, equity, diversity, and inclusion work. This is social justice. All of these things that deal with civic practice. All those things that deal with righting wrongs, with dismantling systems and replacing them with serving the whole of us. All of these things where we're trying to make sure that everyone has a voice and that everyone has a chance to contribute, rather than being deliberately left out or shut out. All of this kind of work that we do, it is extremely important that when we're doing this, that we understand that this is not going to, a lot of us might not see the major change in our lifetime. And that's okay. I think right now also what's maybe disenchanting to some people who have decided they wanted to take on this mantle, that there's not a quick fix. And that we're used to drawing information from our fingertips. We can get it like that. We can go microwave something and have a meal just like that. We can run through a drive-through and have a meal just like that. We get everything so fast in our culture. We have a calculator, a computer with our phones at our fingertips. We literally have these things at our fingertips, can get things in an instant. And this kind of work and this kind of celebration and this kind of undoing and rebuilding of systems is not a microwave type thing. It's just not. It's not a microwave type thing. And so what we also have to understand is that we're trying to build a world that we have not seen. And that is okay. You know, and it, for those of us that are here now doing this and working on this, understand that we're laying stepping stones to higher ground for people that are coming behind us as well. So you may not see it, but the thing is, but you still have to commit and stay committed to constantly examining and constantly looking at things, including our organizational policies, the way in which we interact with our community, the way in which we interact with each other, the way in which we interact with artists who come to our stages, anything like that. We have to understand that this is a constant commitment. It's just as important as when you sit down to look at your budget. It is just as important as when you sit down to look at a production components. When you sit down with the creative team to build a production, it is just as important as all of those things. For your development teams and fundraising and all of these things, it's just as important. And as a matter of fact, if you center that, if you center looking at this, as it will correct a lot of those problems that have happened in these institutions. I know a lot of people don't believe me, but the data is out there. Okay, you can read about it. Corporations have been doing this. Now nonprofits are taking this on very seriously. We are looking at this heavily in the arts and gathering data. And there are plenty of people in the arts who can tell you what they've collected. And there are people who are doing collections and surveys and organizations who are doing this right now to say, look what happens when you commit to these things. And so I would encourage you, as uncomfortable as it may be, and as new as it may be to you, to lean into it.
Yeah.
Lean into it and understand that it's happening for the greater good.
And then lean into it knowing that it's okay. Lean into it knowing that not just you can do it, right? But knowing that you are capable, knowing that in this work that you are necessary. And then so often, right, we often have conversations like this, and then you have to reiterate in so many different ways, but to encourage and uplift our capability. We are very creative, very resilient creatures and individuals and companies and communities and thought leaders in what we do. So it is completely okay to kind of have that knee-jerk reaction and to kind of have that shift to question, because that's what we do. We ask why, but to be bold, to continue to ask why, and then to continue to find those answers, because we have them. We just need to make sure that we take the time to understand them, to implement them, and then to continue to seek more answers. So, of course, welcome to everyone. I want to always make sure we welcome as people are coming in.
Yes, because I see people joining.
Spending your time with us. We are asking that you share your experiences. My question, and I'll ask this of you, Kristian, I'll ask this of everyone who's joining us. How do you celebrate Black History Month? So I will ask that of you for my first question and for everyone else. And then 2, how do you extend that into celebrating just in general?
For me, I'm Black all year. So I celebrate the way I was put on this earth, because I was created this way, you know. And to me, that is a celebration. For this month in particular, you know, it is a month of reflection, definitely. But I feel like for me personally, this month really is just is icing on the cake for me. You know, I love that every year that it seems like new truths or new to others truths are brought out of history, and that's amazing to me. It's amazing to witness those things happening. Every year I'm learning about different things, history that was deliberately hidden, history that was lost, all of these different things. And to me, that is worthy of celebration and of attention all year. How that extends out, I am mindful of when Hispanic Heritage Month comes around, I'm reminded of my brothers and sisters in in those groups, to celebrate with them. You know,
Yeah.
I'm reminded of when indigenous, when we were celebrating our indigenous brothers and sisters as well, and the atrocities that they had to deal with. You talked about them in the Land and People Acknowledgement, and so I make sure that I'm aware of those things. Can I speak to their experiences? No, I can only speak to my own, but. I celebrate those because a lot of history has been hidden there as well, and to see those things come to light, and to see people now, like Latina women in opera, and seeing Black women in opera and Black men in opera and Black Opera Alliance, and our Black administrators of opera, all of us, celebrating and lifting not only, we're lifting our own voices, but we're lifting each other, to see all these different groups, and there are so many out there that are lifting each other. When we
Yes.
spoke with Elder Peggy Larney and her son Brian Larney, were on here about American Indian Heritage Day in Texas, and how they fought to have that day put on a calendar and officially recognized, and that they do celebrations around it and they educate around it. That's, to me, that's so wonderful, because that's history that was stolen and history that was lost, and to see those things come into light, as a part of this great tapestry that the U.S. is. The thing is, the U.S. is a great experiment. We have people from every walk of life walking in this nation, and it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. We have to see the beauty in it, and we have to recognize the beauty in it, and we have to imagine what could be, and then take action to make it happen. And to me, that is worthy of celebration. To see these rights, these wrongs being righted, and I know that I won't see it in my lifetime, but to see the progress that I am seeing, and it's hard to see it sometimes because those microaggressions are real. The blatant things that we see in the news are real, the things we deal with on an everyday basis. But the fact that so many people are waking up and asking questions and doing research and are proudly embracing their heritage, and are questioning, people are questioning what they have been taught. To me, that is worthy of celebration. And I want to celebrate that daily. I want to celebrate that all year. And that to me is how not only celebrate this month, but how I celebrate with other people, you know.
Yeah. Nice. I want to ask more questions. I turned into the interview in this. So everyone, as Kristian has shared her beautiful response, please feel free to also share. We want to know how you also celebrate Black History Month, and how that extends into how you celebrate just everything in general.
Well, I'm about to flip the script on you.
Wait,
How do
before,
you do it?
I want to ask you a question. Because this is opera, can you recall your most memorable experience with opera as a Black woman?
Um, I tell the people
Or
all the
someone
time. People
someone
ask
you saw,
me,
something you heard, those things. Go for it.
well, when I was younger, my brother had a Beethoven excerpt tape. It was a tape. I was born in '81, y'all. I'm not ashamed of my age, okay? I could be underground. The Lord gave me another day. Amen. And so, but I remember when my older brother, had this tape, and one of the first vocal classical things I ever heard was the quartet from Fidelio. So Fidelio is my first opera. So that was meaningful for me, and I didn't know what I was listening to. I was taking piano as a kid, and so I was familiar with classical composers. My dad was familiar. We had classical records around the house and all this kind of stuff. But when I got a little bit older, my nephew was watching, one of my nieces and nephew was watching Sesame Street, and Denise Graves was on with Elmo. And so here I am with my nieces and nephews, and I must have been, I don't remember how old I was. I know I was preteen or into my teens or something. I remember sitting there watching that, and she was singing Carmen, but she was singing it in kid form with Elmo, and I was sitting there like, and she was beautiful and elegant and so charming with Elmo, and my nieces and nephews are watching this too, and that's one of the most beautiful memories that I have, of being a singer myself, being in somebody who loved to sing, wasn't sure that I was going to go into it or anything like that, but seeing this beautiful woman on screen, this gorgeous voice, with a Sesame Street character, working on a children's program, giving back. You know what I mean? It reminded me of when I'm seeing Nina Simone clips on there, or you know what I mean? All this legacy. But for me, there was, because the first thing I said was Black people sing opera. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things that open up another world. I didn't come to opera until a little bit later on, but I distinctly remember that memory of Denise Graves being on Sesame Street. And that is why, amongst other things, she is one of my greatest inspirations, along with Grace Bunbury and Marian Anderson. So that's one of them. The other one is, and I know I'm a little long-winded, but I want to bring this up. I remember when Jesse Norman sang on the 1996 Olympics, and I was 15 years old at the time. And I remember her singing Faster, Higher, Stronger, and just the glitz and glamour and the way, all of this celebration around her, and this woman in her magnificence singing. And I was an athlete, so sports were in my family, and seeing this quote unquote classical sound at an event like that, coming out of this beautiful, tall, gracious Black woman, graceful Black woman, with this powerful, just gorgeous instrument. And it was amazing. It was amazing to see. And so when I think about when I think about Black history in opera, I think about Marian Anderson being the first to sing on the Met stage. But she was past her prime, she didn't get to do it until she was in her 50s, but I think about people who were the way pavers for me to sit in this seat right now, for me to sit in the position that I have in the offices right now. I think about Marjorie Anderson Clive. If you're watching, I wouldn't be where I am if you hadn't taken a chance on me. Quo can probably say the same thing, because Quo interned with her, so I think about those people in that lineage who paved the way for me to be here, and I hope that I can pave the way for other people to come behind me. So yeah. So the question to you.
Oh, nice. Thank you for sharing. And again, we're inviting everyone to share the ways that they celebrate Black History Month and the ways that they celebrate opera and Black History Month and opera, and how those things come together, as well as how we celebrate people in general, how we celebrate others, how we celebrate ourselves in general. So for this month, like you said, and I'm Black all year round, 365, all day, every day.
Every day.
But it's also in me. I take this month as a month of being able to focus on the healing of the community and of the beautifully unapologetic ways in which we shine in so many things. In not just entertainment, but just the fascinating things that we were not able to learn, because again, our history is part of the United States history. So as we learn about one person, there's somebody else. And so you never learn all of it. You never learn enough, especially since so much of it has been dismissed or covered up or simply just not spoken into spaces. So I take this time in this month to uplift every single person I meet. Just extra love. That's what it is. It's this ability to provide just extra love and extra support. And that's across all ways in which we as Black people show up in the space. That includes the Latinidad community, the Afro-Latin, all of this. And so as we're looking at the beautiful ways that we show up in spaces, I also extend this beyond just the US. and the beautiful ways that once we come together in community with ourselves and then with others, there is healing that takes place. There's support that takes place. There is the opportunity to tell everyone that you are beautiful and who you are. And I extend this to everyone, every single person, but also to join in community with others who do not identify as Black or who are not racialized, because that is the thing, who are not racialized as Black, because it provides us with opportunities to see the connections that are already there.
Yes.
So I again, Black all day, every day, but also making sure that as people seek to learn, how that expands. So each year I myself expand and allow that to continue to carry on throughout the year. Excited that it comes back the next month. And then excited for all the things, like you said, that are being shared in the ways that we learn, things that we didn't know. It's fascinating.
Well,
I
and
extend
go ahead.
I extend that into celebration with others in the same way. I know how I would like to be celebrated. And it starts with being asked, how would you like to be celebrated? So as I celebrate other groups, including other communities, this includes other ethnicities and not just those of BIPOC, but this is European ethnicities as well. I love languages. I love food. I love culture. I love art. I love it all. And so in every opportunity that there is to uplift the whole person, and not just one thing about you, or to tokenize, or like we say, try to be a Pokemon master and try to catch them all just because, you know, we can check the boxes. Being able to learn, to listen, and to hold space and to take up space in a way that provides for a true and honest exchange. Your language is beautiful.
Yes.
Your complexion is beautiful. Your everything is beautiful. Your lived experiences are beautiful. The ways that you tell your story, it's beautiful. And being in opera, it allows for me to also see how that extends into art making and how that extends into creating experiences together for art making. I will say that for my most memorable kind of experience, or what inspired me and what let me know that Black history is, it just is, right? I won't even just say it is history. It is. It is a part of who we all are, as is all other history that takes place, because our nation could not have been formed without it. So it's impossible for our nation to have been formed without the histories of everyone who makes up this nation.
Yes.
And so as I look at how I connect that with opera, I'm actually going to say my most memorable experience, I didn't get into opera until I was in college, Prairie View A&M University, which is a historically Black university in Texas. And we went to opera. We went to the opera, we went to the Wortham, we went to HGO, and they had, of course, dress rehearsal tickets. And I remember being in that space with the rest of the chorus, right? It was concert chorale, knowing that we always made beautiful music because it's a concert chorale. We were blazing all the time, right? Making beautiful music together all the time. And so for us to be able to be in that space, and then to, as we're on the bus leaving, for them to start singing. That is when it clicked to me, not who I saw on the stage at the time, because it was Pagliacci, and I remembered Hey Arnold, and I was like, sad clown. I had to stop myself from yelling it. But for us to experience that together, and then for us to take that experience with us. And so now one of the tenors, who's also a vocal major, even though it was not, his voice was not ready for it, but for him to sing Vesila Juba on the way back to people, man, it's a beautiful experience. I also have my first experience with Denise Graves. I was a member of the 105 Voices of History, which is a choir that is combined of representatives from the 105 HBCUs in this nation. And so different representatives from different universities, different colleges, different chorus members, we came together and we sang.
Mm.
We sang, and to hear 105 Black voices, but they were not always just Black, right? But to hear 105 voices from these institutions sing such a variety of repertoire, and to
Yes,
do it so well. We sang, I believe, at the Andrew Mellon and at the Kennedy Center. Can't remember which trip that was, but Denise Graves was there, and she was getting ready for something at the Kennedy Center, I believe. And she was so gracious to come in while we were eating and to speak with us.
yes,
And I lost it. I I lost it without realizing why I lost it, because even then I did not understand what that meant. Even now, as I engage with so many amazing singers, I want y'all to know that I fangirl y'all all of the time.
listen,
Angel Blue knows this. Kenny, you know it. Morris, like
Morris.
all these amazing, Kiki, all these amazing people just right there. It's so amazing to just be in a space to see how it is not, despite our Blackness, we can do this opera. It is our Blackness contributes
To
to
this.
this beautiful art form, and our Blackness is expressed through this beautiful art form.
Yes,
And I extend that in those beautiful experiences. I mean, Denise Graves was just right there, and she was standing there. She was like, "Hey, everybody!" She was talking. She was like,
listen.
"And I lost it."
When you
This is me.
finish, I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah, this is me
Yeah,
fangirling right now, right?
yeah,
And then, so to see that and to know that it becomes available for others, that
yes,
that's not a unique experience to me. And
yes,
as we continue to have these conversations, it will not be a unique experience for others. For
yes,
people to be able to see others who look like them and people who do not look like them come together to make art, to make opera, to make connections, and seeing how people again shift to make way and then move out of the way, so that as we are focusing on specific communities or specific experiences, those are the individuals whose voices are amplified. And they're amplified because everybody else
yeah.
everybody else celebrates, everybody else uplifts, everyone else just honors and comes together to say, yeah, your fill in the blank is beautiful, and we're appreciative of it. And we want to continue to make sure that we continue to create beautiful moments together. So that's my long-winded answer.
No, no, and to I remember I listened to you when you talked about when Denise Graves came into that room, and she came and did a master class at Baylor, at a concert. And this is something I want to emphasize to family members of aspiring singers, aspiring
Mhm.
people who want to be in the arts, stage managers, whatever they want to do, administrators. Um, when you have a child or a person that shows interest, my parents were always very supportive. They didn't understand, but they said, if you want to do it, my dad told me, he said, if you said it was your passion, so you go ahead, And my brother, James Roberts, I will name him, Chris. He's my big brother Chris. He saw how important it was to me, and I'm about to tear up. But when Denise Graves came to Waco and did that concert, my brother got tickets to the front row for me at Waco.
Yeah.
And my brother made sure I got backstage to meet her. You know
That's
what I
what he did.
mean? So
Yeah.
so I say that to you. And then when she was at HDO doing Samson and Delilah, my brother, knowing I was a broke college student, got us tickets, and his girlfriend at the time, and me and my little brother, his girlfriend drove down to Houston to watch Denise Graves. He knew how important it was to me.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm saying. He knew I couldn't afford it. So he bought the tickets and made sure I got down there. And I want to say that to people, if you have the means, if there's
Mhm.
somebody in your life who is showing an interest in this art form, and there is representation on stage, or there is an event with somebody who looks like them, or somebody who's gone through what they are going through, please try to help them get there, and to interact with this person and see this person. Because the next time I saw Denise Graves after that, I was singing on stage at the Winsboro Opera House behind her for the open of APPAC, of like AT&T Performing Arts Center. And she was just as gracious as she was as the day I met her at Baylor University. So I need people to understand Black history is living history, okay?
Yeah.
It is living legacy. And it means a lot for those way pavers who have come before us and have made ways for us. And the graciousness that I have seen come out of so many of my brothers and sisters in this art form, and not just Black, who are willing to take the time to talk to young people of every race, color, creed, background. It means so much, and it has so much impact for this art form. And companies and organizations, if you take the time to do the work, and to hire the people in the right place, and to hire your singers, and to hire your creative teams, to hire your conductors, hire your orchestra players, whatever it is, hire your administrators. If you take the time to really and truly get a diverse, not just diverse of color, I'm talking diverse of thought, of experience, of skill set, talent, of all of these things, the voices at the table and what that means to people that are coming behind them, and people who can see them and have access and be able to talk to those people in your offices and on your stages, on your podiums. It means a whole lot. To folks that are running the boards, it means a whole lot, especially in a nation where those positions were not held by people who look like us, or at least we didn't know it because it was deliberately left out of history.
Yeah.
So I leave it at that.
And as we come to a close, as we say,
Yes, before Instagram kicks us off.
Right. As it comes to a close, I extend that and the beautiful experiences to organizations to also make sure that there is access and there are resources so that people can continue to have these types of experiences, because they really do shape our lives. We always, we caution the idea that art saves lives, but we know that art impacts lives.
Yes.
We know that art experiences and the creation of art and the things that come with that, the discipline, the community, the collaboration, the forceful way in which we have to accept truth. Like, this is what we're capable of doing right now, but the resilience, and this is what I'm going to keep doing until I can get there. And
Yes.
so as we look at that, we want to make sure that we're providing opportunities for everyone to experience that as their full selves.
As themselves, yes.
Just, we need to engage with this. We need to engage the Black community today because that's what we need in order for us to fill seats, because we have this one-off production that is coming.
Yes.
No, it's not sustainable. And then it presents this false dichotomy that in order to engage, it has to be on your terms, or it has to be directed a certain way. So again, we have the ability and the creativity to shift our roles within space. We are valued in all spaces. Sometimes that looks like being silent in a space. Sometimes that looks like providing a way for people to move forward and speak up in the space. Sometimes that is literally being outside of the space and holding space, even though you cannot participate. Yes. So I encourage all of us to, again, take heart. I'm in my positive notes now, I guess.
Yes. We better wrap up because we're going to get kicked off in about 30 seconds. So positive notes have to be quick.
You took up like 10 of it. So take heart, celebrate yourself, celebrate others. You are beautiful. We are all beautiful. Those are my positive notes.
Y'all, thank you so much. And I say again, be bold, be creative. Look at yourselves, look at the people around you, celebrate them, lift them up, celebrate yourself, lift yourself up. And we want to thank you all for tuning in once again. As usual, we are reachable. You can DM us, you can email us. Please feel free to reach out. If you can't find us, ask the Dallas Opera how to get a hold of us, and they will let us know. Our social media team and our artistic team is fabulous about that, and we want to thank them as well. So until next time, everybody, we love you. We are in Texas, and we are hanging in there. Keep us in your thoughts, keep us in your prayers. If you can donate to these organizations that are doing the work, we very much appreciate it. All right, we're signing off. Peace.
Bye, everyone.